Hello, everyone. This is Melanie, the one who has been emailing you. We're going to get started here in just a couple of minutes, but I see we have a couple of people already who have logged on. If you could do me a favor and just type something in the chat room and let me know that you can hear me okay, that would be fantastic. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Wanted to welcome everyone to our virtual session here today to talk about how to put your best foot forward and create a competitive admissions packet. As I've seen a couple of people already are able to participate in the chat box. And please feel free at any point to ask questions. I did get people's questions ahead of time as well if you put them in your registration sheet. So we'll talk about some of those at the end of the session today, but please feel free at any point during, if there's anything that I'm covering that you want to know more about, go ahead and type it in the chat box. There maybe is a slight delay in the chat, so if I don't see your question right away, please know that it will come through and I will be checking every once in a while to make sure that I'm answering questions as we go along. So my name again is Melanie. I am the communications director here at the School of Human Resources and Labor Relations, and I also work very closely with our master's recruitment team as far as we get to share our message and tell everybody about this program and meet students. Some of you I may have even met at different events. We travel and go to different schools. So also get to manage our social media pages, and as I like to describe it, I get to really do all of the fun stuff. So that's a little bit about me. And then we'll go ahead and get into the presentation. So this is, if anybody has just logged on, and I think I put this in the email with the link, but if you find yourself not being able to access the chat box, go ahead and just log in either to a Gmail or Google account or into YouTube, and that will typically give you access to be able to ask questions in the chat box. All right, so for our program, and we will talk a little bit about our program, but as I said originally, this is going to give you some kind of helpful hints and tips really for any graduate program here at Michigan State University, because I'm actually going to show you screenshots later in the presentation of exactly what the graduate portal looks like. I know the different people on the session today may be at different stages of this process, so kind of bear with me if you've already seen that, you're already at that point. This will be a good introduction for some people, and maybe if I can help you even learn how to navigate it better, then I've done my job then. So, but we will talk specifically about the requirements for our Master's in Human Resources and Labor Relations, which we are currently looking at the fall of 2018. However, this right here applies for any semester. So if you're looking at spring or beyond, if you're not immediately looking at getting into grad school, but you're thinking about it, this is also going to help you for the future. So a few of the things that we're going to go over today really are just the step-by-step process every single piece that needs to go into your admissions packet, to have it complete, to have it be able to be submitted for review, and also some best tips and practices on how to put together the best admissions packet and what the committee really is looking for. Now, I'm not on that committee. I have no say, but I do work with them, and I know, things that I've picked up over the years and what they're looking for. So I'm going to share some of that with you today as well. So we've got your official transcripts. We're going to go into each of these in more detail. GRE and GMAT scores. What are the prerequisites that we require? Letters of recommendation, some hints and tips, and also logistically how to get the requests out to those people. This seems to be one that people quite often have a lot of questions on. I can help you with that. Your personal statement, also your resume. And then for anybody who may be looking at the work experience route, we'll just kind of touch on that if that applies to anybody on the session today. So we will get into these one by one now. So transcripts, and if you have a paper and pencil or pen ready right now, go ahead and take down that name and that address. Cheryl Molitor, 401 South Kedzie Hall, 368 Farm Lane, East Lansing, 48824. So you'll hear me mention Cheryl's name a couple of times in this session, and I'll tell you why. Because if you haven't already had any communication with Cheryl, depending on where you are in the process, she is our graduate program coordinator. And what that means is as you start to, basically from the time you submit your application through the graduate application and pay the fee, you immediately show up, as I say, on her radar or in the system that she sees. You show up as somebody who's applied to our program. And from that point forward, Cheryl's the person who will then monitor, and she and I work very closely together on this. She'll monitor as your different pieces of your graduate application come in. And she kind of, figuratively and literally checks the boxes. So as your letters of recommendation come in, we make sure, okay, we've got that, but we might be missing one. And then she and I work together to communicate with you toward completion so that okay, I've got all my stuff in, now I'm under review, it's go time. So that's where you want your transcripts to be sent directly to her attention here. So just have whatever your current university is, their registrar's office, or if it's here at MSU, if you're a current Michigan State student, the process couldn't be easier. You don't even really have to do anything. She can automatically request to get your transcripts. So if you're currently an MSU student, the only other thing you want to make sure is if you had any other college credits that weren't on your MSU transcript, that you have those sent to Cheryl as well, so that you're making sure that all your credits are getting counted. All right, so the next part of applying for graduate school is taking the GRE or the GMAT. In our program, we accept both, and I often hear students ask me, well, do you recommend one or the other? Does the school look more favorably upon one or the other? And the answer to that is no, it's up to you. However, I will share what I've heard year after year, what we hear from our students, and everybody's different. So our students, a lot of times, we have a variety of students from a variety of backgrounds and different areas of study. I mean, we have a young lady who's doing awesome in our program right now, and her undergraduate was in German. So, people don't necessarily think, oh, I'm studying German, I'm going to go into HR, but it works. So we do accept a lot of different variety of studies in undergrad. But a lot of times it's a lot of social science majors or people who have a fundamental interest in people and the psychology of people and teams and how they work together. So what I'm getting at here is they tend to be a little more of that social science background, not as quantitative or left brain mathematical, if you will. And from what I'm told, year after year, the GRE is the one that you might prefer if you tend to fall into that category. Now, if you are looking at an MBA as well, you are required to take the GMAT, I believe. So just keep that in mind. But my understanding is the GMAT is just a little more on the mathematical side, so quantitative side. So either one's fine though. And you can, so one thing that we like to let people know, and this is one of the questions we got ahead of time too, is people want to know, okay, I feel like I can't apply because I haven't taken the GMAT, or or GRE, I haven't even scheduled it yet. Can I apply? The answer is absolutely yes. So you can complete your application through the grad app and submit it, show up on Cheryl's radar, and you do have to pay the graduate application fee. I've learned that as well, but I think it's $65. Once you do that, you show up on Cheryl's radar, you're in communication with us then. Let's say you get that done and you're starting to get your letters of recommendation together and these things, but you want to take the time to schedule the GRE and to have time to study for it. So you get on there and you set it for end of March. That's okay right now. You get everything else in. The key is to communicate with Cheryl and let her know, hey, I'm going to be taking it the end of February or the beginning of March or whatever. Like she just told me this morning, we've got about 8 students right now who everything is complete but the GRE, but she knows about it. So she's got a little note on your file saying just waiting for GRE scores, and you're still absolutely in consideration for our program. So if that's something that's been a question on your mind, you're not behind or anything on that. And certainly take the time to study. Don't try and rush it. Make sure you feel prepared and can do your best on that. So just communicate with Cheryl, let her know, and then she actually will let people, or encourages people, I should say, you'll get your scores back electronically. You can actually take a screenshot of your scores and email that to her, and she's been known to actually print that, put it in there, get you submitted for review even sooner, and then wait, and then the official scores, of course, then have to come through. But you can't really fake those screenshots. I mean, it'd be pretty good if you did. But so a couple other ways that you can get your admissions packet reviewed, even while you're still waiting on your GRE or GMAT scores. There's our institution code. And now I know that the scores, sometimes this is another question we get quite often, and we do have what we call our averages. So this is kind of where the average student in our program falls, and what the admissions committee is looking for, or in the ballpark of this, to make sure that we feel like you're going to be able to be successful in our program. So 50th percentile, which looks like that broken down on the GRE, 151 on the verbal, 152 on the quantitative, combined score on the GMAT of 650. Now I put that third bullet in there, and this is very important to me to make clear to everybody, because I know not all of us, myself included, standardized testing is not my favorite thing in the world, and I don't think I'm any less qualified to do what I do or more, because I'm not that great of a standardized tester. So it is considered as part of your overall admissions packet. Now, you definitely want to work hard, prepare, and try to be in the ballpark of those numbers. But if you're, a couple points off here or there, or you're down under each of them, but your GPA, you really apply yourself in school and your GPA is higher, they're really going to take all of these things into consideration. They're going to take into consideration your letters of recommendation, what people are saying about you, your resume, any experience you have, and also your personal statement and why you want to be in this field. So just keep in mind, you're not just a number applying to this program, that they will consider you as an overall person. And if you ever did want to, come here and meet with anybody, if you haven't already, that's always an option too. If you want to really come in and meet face to face, that's an option as well. So let me know if you have any questions about the GRE or GMAT. We can certainly revisit that, as again, that's tends to be where we get a lot of questions. All right, so prerequisites. For our program, we have 3 prerequisites. We have a behavioral science, and that is usually one that our prospective students have had no problem satisfying the behavioral science. So that's any psych, so communications course, lots of different classes can fulfill that behavioral science requirement. So we don't typically have people saying, oh, I don't have that. And you do all of these, you want to look for a 3.0 or above in the class. That is something that they are, that they pretty much stick to. Statistics, and we do look at a variety of different statistics courses. If you have a question about the stats class that you took at your university or even here at state, you can always email Cheryl and say, this is the class I took. Will it fulfill the statistics requirement for your program? And she can compare it and look and specifically come back and tell you, yes, it will, or hey, maybe look at taking this. I gave one example of the like Psych 295 here at MSU is an example of one of the classes that fulfills that. And then if there's one prerequisite that we hear time and time again, most students, because I know I wouldn't search this class out necessarily unless I knew I had to, is microeconomics. And it does have to be micro. It cannot be macro or a macro micro combo. So this is the only one where they're pretty specific. And that's because that particular skill set's going to help you in our certain classes in our program. So lots of times people say, I've never taken a micro econ. I'm graduating in May. I can't even add a micro econ class at this point. Can I still apply to the program? Can I still be considered? And what can I do? So let's say you're missing one or even two of those classes. You can still apply to our program. You just want to create a plan for how you're going to fulfill those prerequisites. And that plan can look like a couple of different things. So I know a lot of students who've been missing like the micro econ, they'll take it at a community college over the summer. That is absolutely an option. Or even in the fall, you can complete your prerequisites even up to your first semester in our program. So if you're coming into Michigan State and you're like, okay, I think I want to I can't take anything over the summer for whatever reason, but when I come in your first semester, you can maybe take 2 of our HRLR courses and then take your last prereq here at Michigan State, if that's an option. Or again, you can take it even at a community college in addition to your other studies. So you can fulfill those even though if you're graduating in May and you don't maybe have one. Still apply to the program, and is where I'm going to come back to Cheryl again. Just communicate your plan to Cheryl. Let her know, because what she does is she makes a note of it and and says, Ashlyn plans to take microeconomics at Lansing Community College this summer and will complete it by such and such. And as long as the admissions committee sees you have a plan to complete these, they don't hesitate to consider acceptance for you into our program, even without one. And I've even had students who have, not had two, but it's better to have more of them. I should say that, but you can create a plan if you don't. So here is another point that we get a lot of questions on, and that is our letter of recommendation requirement. For our program, we're looking for 3. Now that's a minimum 3, so 3 are required. Now you can have up to 5. I think they say, if you have more than that, you're kind of just showing off. So no more than 5, but at least 3. And keep in mind that 2 of your letters of recommendation should be from professors who've actually had you in class. So faculty who have taught you. Now we have had it asked, and the answer is yes, you can have, if there was like a graduate student who taught your class, or an assistant, but they actually had you in class and they taught the class, then that person can write you a letter of recommendation. Of course, it might be look different from a professor, but keep that in mind. You can, but people who've actually had you in class and can speak to your academic performance. And then the other one can be from any professional reference, an employer, an advisor, who again can speak to some of your strengths. And I'm going to show you specifically what this looks like in the graduate portal a little bit later in the presentation. But after you submit your application, you can actually add your recommenders into the graduate portal, and then it automatically generates an email to them. And I'm going to, again, show you specifically what that looks like. But the reason I want to bring that point up is that a lot of times people think, well, I've got to have all these ducks in a row before I can submit my application. And I think it's very important to say that no, you don't have to, and you shouldn't, because again, you complete the application, we can then help work with you and track your progress. So you can submit your recommenders later. So if you don't have them all locked up right now, you can still complete the application while you're working on that. So of course, you're going to ask them permission. I know I speak with our faculty members here, and they don't mind having a conversation with the student who's asking them to recommend them about, what program are you looking to get into? What are some of the strengths that maybe they could speak to, or that they could help, if you I mean, of course, we can't tell them what to write in our letter, but if we want to have that conversation, I've had faculty members here tell me that they find that helpful to say, hey, I'm applying for a master's in human resources and labor relations. Do you think you could speak to my dedication and always having my assignments in on time, or my critical thinking skills, whatever it is that you want them to highlight, or even to say, I think some of the things they're looking for in this program are, if you feel you could write about that. So let them know what you're applying for, have a good discussion with them, because strong letters are important. And so take your time with that, and make sure that the people that you choose, that you have absolute confidence in what they're going to write, and that they're going to be able to represent you in the way that you, the strengths that you want to shine through as you're being considered for this program. All right. Now, the next section is on writing your personal statement. And I want to take time, because it's not actually in the presentation, but I want to clarify something that we get asked quite a bit, which is there's a spot where you can upload or put in, there's two different things. There's a personal statement, and then there's something called an academic statement. And I want to be very clear in that we only require the personal statement. So you can submit an academic statement, but I'll tell you what that is used for. The only time you would ever need to submit an academic statement is if you have something that you want to explain. So let's say you had one semester where it affected your GPA. By the way, another side point, we only look at your recalculated GPA, which is your last 60 credits of your undergrad. So if you had a bad freshman year, we won't even be looking at those credits, so no worries on that. So recalculated GPA, last 60 credits. But let's say there's still something on your academic record that you want to explain, and there were some extenuating circumstances. You can use the academic statement as an opportunity to explain that. Now, if there's nothing like that, then you just stick with the one personal statement. Should be no more than 2 pages, double spaced. And I know when I did this, I saved it as a Word document, and I've created it into a PDF, but I don't think that even matters. And then I uploaded it later in the portal instead of copying and pasting it into the actual grad app. If you did that, that's totally fine too. Cheryl would tell me right now to tell you that either way, she'll get it and it's fine. Whatever you're more comfortable with. But what should go in your personal statement? What are they looking for? I'd like to say that this is your opportunity to kind of jump off the page, and let them know who you are as a person, and why you want to be in this field, why you're interested in this program. I mean, in our program specifically, we graduate the future top HR and LR leaders in the nation, even internationally. Some of our alumni are the vice president of HR for Walt Disney Company, or the chief human resource officer for Microsoft. So we want to see people who are passionate about this field, even if you don't know exactly what you want to do yet, but like there's something about this that I'm drawn to. So let them know why this field, why human resource labor relations. It's your time to bring in any relevant experience or interests and why you feel drawn to this. You don't have to have any work experience or even internship experience to be accepted into this program, but they do want to see why you are interested in this field and what brought you to us, and why you're interested in this program. So I've got a question from Jenny. She asks, what if you're thinking about applying a semester after graduation? Do you still want to from professors? Okay, great question. And people ask us who have even been out of school for a while. That can typically be a challenge for people who've been in the workforce a long time. So if somebody's been out of college for a while, we tend to make more concessions. If it's just a semester or so after, or even people who've been out for a year or so, they're still hoping that you can have connections back to professors. And here's the thing, letters of recommendation are good for, I think, is it at least a year? I need to double check on that. But as long as it's not any sort of time sensitive letter, they can still, you can still ask them now And I do think that if it was just like a semester, they would still want you to have 2 from professors because that's not far enough out. Typically, they only waiver on that if it's somebody who's been out in the workforce and they have no idea who their teachers were anymore. But it's a good idea to talk to those people and to let them know your timeline and say, hey, I'm probably not going to apply till spring of 2019. And then here's another key on letters of recommendation that I didn't mention. I'll actually go back to the previous screen because this is bringing up a very good point. So when you submit a recommender, and I'm going to show you how that's done here in a little bit. When you submit a recommender, it's going to automatically, and you do that through the graduate portal, it's going to automatically send them an email asking them to write you a letter of recommendation. Now, here's the thing, and when I applied for grad school, I made sure, because one of them was my associate director, and I'm like, hey, can you show me what that email looks like just so I can know for others, for students that I'm helping. And the email that comes to your recommenders, it does not say, hey, Melanie's Rema's request for her letter of recommendation. It's something sort of generic and easy to pass by or delete. So here's my suggestion, and Jenny, I hope I can kind of tie this back to your question, is when you do ask them for a letter of recommendation and you send that request, it's good to send them a quick email as a reminder to say, hey, I just submitted your name for a letter of recommendation you'll be receiving. With my recommenders, it came, I think, within 24 hours, one within the hour. But you should be receiving a link soon that will provide you with the link where you can upload. So they can submit this from anywhere because it's going to give them a link to click on where they can just upload it as a document. And then you can track it, and I'll show you that. So, Jenny, let's say you go to a couple professors right now and you ask them if they could submit letters. You maybe send them a quick email with a reminder of who you are, and then you submit them. It sends them the email, and then you send them another quick email that says, hey, I just submitted you as one of my recommenders. Thank you again for agreeing to do this. And just give them that reminder no matter what, no matter when you're applying. I would always send them a quick, hey, I just submitted your name as a recommender. Thank you again. Da, 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 da. If I can help in any way, please feel free to contact me. That way they didn't know to look in their email for that email with the link. So I hope I answered your question. Please feel free to clarify or ask for clarification if I can help further. All right, so back to the personal statement. We talked about the fact you can upload it as a doc or PDF to the graduate portal. No need to copy and paste. And this is your chance to tell them who you are and why you belong in this program in your own words. So don't be afraid, and one thing they're looking for here, and I think for some of us, we can err on the side of caution sometimes, where it's like, okay, I don't want to get too personal, and that's not a bad idea. You don't want to get too personal, but you also don't want to err on the side of generic either, where, for instance, they've heard from a lot of people, I love to work with people. And hopefully you do, because that is a big part. Unless you want to go into like HR analytics, there are definitely, or comp and benefits, there are left brain parts to this field. But a lot of people say they like to work with people. So more specifically, what were some experiences that you had, or what specifically do you want to do? Or, and again, you don't have to know what area you want to work in, but just kind of in general about you and why you would be good in this field and in this program. All right. So next step, I'm kind of wrapping up here a little bit, but is a resume. And so as you see right here, I say resume, we say it's strongly recommended, but I say just submit your resume if you've ever done anything ever, because most of us, even if you haven't done an internship in HR, but you worked in retail for a summer or whatever, we've all done something at some point. Create a nice professional resume and, work with somebody if you need help, but find ways to kind of draw out how your particular experiences could be applied to this field. And it can't help but add more weight to your admissions packet. So I say absolutely submit a resume. And this stuff you probably, I'm sure most of you are already in undergrad. You've probably heard this 1,000 times, but have several people proofread your resume for grammar accuracy and formatting. And I'll give you an example. I, years ago, was applying for a different position, and I had submitted my resume online to probably at least like four or five different positions that I was qualified for, and I just was not getting any hits, right? Like nobody was contacting me, and it was starting to kind of hurt my self-esteem a little. And I'm like, I'm just going to have one more coworker take a look at my resume. And this coworker was a very blunt gentleman, but thank God, because he looked, and I had worked at a managing a restaurant from 1996 to 2003, but I put that I had managed that restaurant from 2003 to 1996. And so in his nice way, he's like, what, did you have a time machine? Like, he actually circled it and said, did you have a time machine? So you can't have too many people proofread your resume. Just saying. I learned a lot from that experience. And then again, you could submit that as an attachment to the graduate portal. All right, so for anybody who may fall into this category, and we don't always have a lot of people, so I'm going to kind of go over this, but you can always email me if you have more questions about the work experience path. It is an option available currently for domestic students. Work experience is for students who have 5 or more years of relevant work experience, but that has to be after you've already gotten your bachelor's degree. And the one benefit for students who look at this path is that they can enter the program without having to submit a GRE or a GMAT. So if you do qualify for this, feel free to notify Cheryl, and there's just an extra document that you submit and a little bit different way that you come into the program, but it's certainly an option for folks. All right, extra tips and tricks. If you know you want to apply, start with the application, gets you on our radar. I've already mentioned that a couple of times. I personally found it way easier to upload the documents, just format wise, and I don't know, I just felt more confident with it. But again, if you've already put stuff in the grad app, don't take it out. You're fine. You can do both actually, and Cheryl will figure out which one to use. But I just liked submitting everything as an attachment in the graduate portal after I submitted my application. Please don't hesitate to reach out throughout this process. If you can't, hopefully you can tell through the computer that I absolutely love helping people. It's what I do. It's what I enjoy doing. So there's no such thing as too many questions in my book. So please feel free to email me. You have my email. Please feel free to use it. If you are not currently looking at applying for grad school, if you're junior, sophomore, freshman, one thing you can do now is just start looking at those letters of recommendation, making those connections with your professors, making sure you knock it out of the park in that class and impress them. So then they'll be happy to write you a letter of recommendation. That's one thing you can do now, even though you're not ready to apply. And if you haven't been to our website yet, from the homepage, it's under the application and admissions tab on the homepage. And then you can go to the admissions toolkit. And I've got the link to the toolkit here a little bit later, but it breaks down everything that we talked about today. And it actually has a checklist if you want to physically, if you're a list maker, check things off as you get them done. You can print the application or admissions checklist. Okay, so real quick, I just want to show you just some screenshots of the graduate portal. So this is once you submit your application and you pay the fee, and you might have access to this even before that, but I think you get full capabilities after you've submitted your application, or at least I felt like I did, but who knows. You can log into the graduate portal, and this next screen is basically like the home screen. Again, if some of you are already in this process, this is not going to surprise you. You will have already seen this, but for anybody who's either kind of still thinking about the process, this is what you'll have access to once you have completed the application. And all of these different things under the control panel are the ways that you can submit your documentation. And there's only a couple really that you need to focus on. One is the file uploads, and the other is the letters of recommendation. So I'm going to show you just a quick screenshot of what the file uploads looks like. And this was, you'll see it's all kind of my info from recently applying to graduate school, but it gives you a good idea of what it looks like. So you select the document, and it'll let you choose like personal statement, resume, all of those things, and then you choose the file and upload it. And then once you do, it'll show up under that upload history. And if you notice under the upload history, I hope you all can see it. I know it's kind of small on the little computer screen, but it says who it's uploaded by. What's nice is once your letters of recommendation get uploaded, you can see uploaded by recommender. So you can actually monitor when your letters of recommendation have been submitted. And also when your transcripts get loaded, it says uploaded by department. And then the things that you can upload here, like mine's called a goal statement. Yours would be called a personal statement, but you would upload here like your personal statement and your resume would be two things you could upload here. The next one is under the control panel, letters of recommendation. You would click there, and there's an opportunity to click on something called register recommender. And this is the screen where you would put in the first and last name of your recommender, their email address, verify the email. I clicked I hereby waive my rights of access to the letters of recommendation because I don't think you're really supposed to be able to see them first. So I just click that. And then when you click add recommender, it's going to automatically generate that email to them and send it to them that has the link that they can click to upload it. So you can kind of know the process as you're communicating with them. Hey, here's how it's going to go. And as I mentioned earlier, once you do this, just take a quick second and send them a quick email and let them know they should be expecting to see an email requesting your letter of recommendation and with the link to upload it. And that usually helps people. So once you put in your 3 different recommenders and you add them one at a time there, I'll show you just this last screen here. And of course I had to protect the innocent. So I did that really nice professional whiteout job there. You'll see here in a second. So it's going to add their name. And what's nice about this too is you see where it says letter submitted. It will show you yes or no whether they've submitted. So you can actually track whether they've done it or not. And if you're getting close to like go time and you're like, okay, I'm still missing one, you can always send a quick, hey, just, I know you're very busy. Thank you again for offering to, you could also resend in just the regular email, but I think a little more personal email at that point would be good. Now you see, I underlined one part that said no. So it says letter submitted, no. And I wanted to point out a mistake I made that I don't want any of you to make is when my recommender, Melissa, was a former boss of mine, when I put her email in, her email is Melissa M. last name. And the first time I put it in, I forgot the M after Melissa. And so the email never got to her. Thankfully, I was in communication with her to find out if she got it. And she just said, hey, I haven't gotten anything yet. And so I went in and double checked in here and realized I had put her email in incorrectly. So pay attention to detail on this because it's just those little things that can sometimes set you back a little bit. And, why not avoid it on the front end and make sure we don't do what I did. It all worked out though. All right. So we've got just a couple of questions that people asked ahead of the session that I wanted to address in case any of those folks are currently logged on. And the first one was, if I haven't taken the GRE yet, how late can I still apply for the master's, and how quickly does rolling admissions fill up? So we kind of already talked about that, but just to recap it, you can complete everything but the GRE, insert GMAT if you want to take the GMAT, and still be considered even if you take it even in like March or April. As far as when our rolling admissions fill up, we typically have places, spots in the program that are available even into the early spring. So if you start to get into summer and beyond that, then you might be pushing it a little bit. But we've had people sneak in even a little later than we'd like sometimes. But typically we haven't had to cut it off anytime before like the end of the semester. So you're still all right on that. Somebody had asked if we had a pre-sessional course. I did look into that, and at this time we do not. If I plan to apply for spring 2019, can I start submitting my application requirements now? You can. And I actually went and asked Cheryl this question since she sees the stuff. But she said it's important to maybe touch base with her if you want her to communicate with you as far as like that she's received anything, because right now she's in full fall 2018 mode. So all the in the portal that she goes into that she sees the graduate application, she's really focused on fall right now, and she stays that way until basically the end of July when students start in August, when you kind of wrap it up, put a bow on it. So then she turns her attention to the spring of 2019, usually at about July-ish. So you can, because I think it's an option to choose right now under the graduate application. So you certainly can, but if you're looking for communication anytime soon, then reach out personally. And one person had asked, does MSU offer a grad program for IO Psych? And the answer is yes. And from what I understand, I only represent the HRLR program, but our IO Psych, I guess, is one of the best programs in the nation. So we do offer it. And now I did a little bit of research on this, and it is like PhD level training, and it's for students who really want to work more in like research oriented or faculty positions. So if you want to teach or do research in that field. So our degree, and we do have a PhD program in human resources and labor relations here. So if you are interested in research or maybe teaching, then you could look into our PhD program for human resources and labor relations. It's a little bit different than IO Psych. It's more kind of application based, not as theoretical. But our master's program typically is more geared toward getting you a career. And hopefully, if you've already been researching the program, you know that 100% of the students that have come into our program in the last 5+ years get an internship between their first and second year. And that's something we work very hard to ensure. And then 98 to 100% of those students actually get full-time offers, and most of them before they even graduate. So that's really our focus, is helping you figure out exactly what you want to do career-wise and making those connections for you to know that you're going to come out of grad school with not only a job, but a strategic career where you're starting off at, on average, $79,000 or above. So that's our focus. But we do, Michigan State has other programs, and we certainly have a PhD program too. So those were the questions I got ahead of time. And one final slide, and you all already have my email, but just in case there's my email, there's my phone number. Cheryl, I've spoken so much about, she knows I do this. That's Cheryl's email, her phone number. There's the specific link for our admissions toolkit and some pictures of our smiling, shiny, happy students. The upper left one is study abroad. We are one of the few graduate programs who actually offer study abroad. So they can either go to China or South Korea, and then there's South Africa trip as well. But I won't get into all that. Today was just about admissions. But if you have any other questions, well, first I'll probably, if you have any other questions right now, please feel free to type them on. I'll stay on for a couple more minutes for anyone who does have questions. But I'll leave you with this for anybody that's gotten everything that they wanted to get out of this. If you, once you get into this process or wherever you're at in the process, or even if you're still just thinking about it and you have more questions, feel free to email me at any time. If you haven't visited and you want to visit, I can help you set that up too. So just feel free to stay in touch at any point. And I'll stay around, like I said, for a couple more minutes to see if anybody has any final questions in the chat box. But other than that, have a great rest of your day, and thank you so much for joining me today. Remember, there's a little bit of a delay in the chat box, so if you typed a question, it hasn't come through yet, but if you did, I will get it. All right. Actually, I'm like going to type the answer, but I realize I can just say it out loud. So Ashlyn, first, thank you, Savannah. Ashlyn, we have students who come in who are interested in all kinds of different types of organizations. Now, I will be completely transparent with you and let you know that a lot of the companies that come and specifically recruit our students, and we do have about 40 to 45 companies that come in the fall who specifically are here to meet with and set up interviews and find students for internships from our program. And a lot of them you're going to find are like Fortune 500 or more corporate type environment organizations. However, that doesn't mean that we can't try to help you find connections with other organizations. Or that doesn't mean that if you went and we do have a lot of different size. Now, I don't know specifically what any large nonprofits that we have that specifically recruit from us, but that doesn't mean that our director of career placement doesn't have connections at those places. And I'm going to make myself a note too to ask her about that. And Ashlyn, I have your email, so I will follow up with you on that specific question, because I know our graduate program, even if it's not a company that recruits from us, the degree is still is one of the most recognized degrees in HR and LR and can help you. And I'm just wondering if maybe our director of career placement has any connections specifically at those, like you said, you mentioned YMCA, Habitat for Humanity. I'll follow up with you on that specifically to see what she says. And she's out right now. She's got what I'm just getting over, which is that fun little flu that's been going around. But I will make a note on Monday to follow up with her. So please stay tuned. I'll get more on that from you. And then Lauren, to send our transcript from another university, should it be sent in the mail to Cheryl? Yeah, typically from the other university, you would just get a hold of your registrar's office. I don't know, sometimes they make you pay. I don't know what the policy is everywhere. But yeah, you would provide them with Cheryl's name and mailing address, and then yes, they would actually send it. They still do it pretty old school, I guess, is what she says, but they can actually send it in the mail to Cheryl, unless there's some other way that they do it now. But she typically says have them mail it to you, or have them mail it to her, I should say. You're very welcome. All right, I think that's it for questions right now. Feel free to email me anytime, and everybody have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.